I have been bodybuilding for over 40 years. I competed 46 times. I won 17 titles. I coached thousands of clients. And when you spend so long doing something, something becomes very interesting. You don't just learn more. You realize that things that you believed in when you were 20 were completely wrong. When I started bodybuilding, I believed that bodybuilding is all about training. Find the right exercises, lift heavy weights, eat enough food, build as much muscle as possible. And if somebody told me what I know now, then I wouldn't listen. Because some lessons cannot be learned from the textbook. You have to live through them. You have to make mistakes. You have to see your body changing. You have to see other people changing. You have to experience periods when everything works and then periods when nothing seems to work. And also you have to get older and eventually you start seeing bodybuilding very differently. So in this video, I'm not going to give you just another list of most effective exercises or talk about how many sets you should perform. I want to give you 7 things that more than 40 years in bodybuilding have taught me. Things I wish I understood when I started. So watch the full video because the last one is probably the biggest reason why I am still training today. So the first lesson is actually that you have to discover your own body. When you are young, you want somebody to give you the answer. You want somebody to tell you what is the best program, what are the best exercises. You want somebody to tell you how many sets to do, how many reps to do. You want somebody to tell you how to eat. And naturally, you look at the most successful bodybuilders and you think, if that worked for them, it is going to work for me. And I'm probably the best example of that. Because when I started, I looked up Mike Mentzer. He was then very popular. And I started following his training and nutritional plans. I was simply hypnotized and I was a believer like no other. I did everything the best that I could have, but obviously it didn't work for me. Then I looked up Serge Nubre. I met Serge Nubre, I trained with him. I went there twice. I went to Paris to train in his gym. Things were completely opposite. Enormous volume, up to 40 sets per muscle group, moderate weights, higher number of reps. So I thought immediately, well, if that works for Serge Nubre, it has to work for me. So I tried it, but I couldn't do it. I was desperate and I thought there is something wrong with me. This is why I had to go again. So it's second time I actually went to see why I'm not doing what Serge Nubre is doing, because this is what happens when you're young. You always try to find somebody to show you what to tell you what to do exactly. And this is what usually happens to young people, to beginners, because they simply copy workout systems for more advanced bodybuilders. But this is not the right thing to do. This is actually wrong. But after training myself for over 40 years and also coaching other people, one thing became very clear to me, and this is that people respond differently. There are principles of physiology that apply to all of us, but how do we respond to them is remarkably different. One person can grow very well from exercises that would not do much for another one. One person can tolerate enormous volume. There are people who can train 30 sets in every single session for almost every muscle group, all major muscle groups, like myself. I can do that. And there are people who cannot do that. And this is why when I advise about the right number of sets, I said that your target should always be between 20 and 30 sets for major muscle groups, for biggest muscle groups like legs, chest, back, even shoulders. But that doesn't mean that you have to do 30 sets. That doesn't even mean that you have to do 20 sets. Right now, if you're doing 10 sets, that's fine because you cannot do differently. But your target has to be higher number of sets. And I have explained that in many videos. Why is that? So some people will come up to 16 sets, 20 sets, and they will progress perfectly. Some people will need more sets. So all these things is something that one should find. Because simply there is no recipe out there. You have to discover your own body. You have to listen to your body's response to your training, to your diet, and use the principles that I advise, and try to find the perfect solution, the perfect training program, and the perfect exact diet for yourself. So your body will always give you answers. You have to listen to your body carefully. First of all, you have to see if you are progressing at all. Are you recovering? Are your joints hurting maybe? Are you getting stronger in the meaningful way? And this is where I talk about progressive overload. The only and the most perfect way of applying that principle. I explained that in few videos. So if you're interested, you can go back and find them and watch what I understand and what I advise as the one and only progressive overload principle, because there is a big confusion there. So also you need to listen to your body. What happens when you increase the number of sets? Does your body respond well with growth? Can you recover from that? Or you need to reduce the number of sets? What happens when you change your nutrition? So these things, these responses of your body to the changes that you apply in your training and in your diet become your database. And after enough years, you begin to know your body incredibly well. I know things about my body now that I couldn't possibly do when I started. Not because somebody finally gave me the secret about the best training program and the best number of sets or maybe the best diet, but I just listened to my body, and I accumulated decades of feedback. And that's something I tell people, learn the principles, but then learn yourself. You cannot just copy things, because you're not simply a software that will respond exactly how you expect when you make changes. You are a living, animated human being, and that is a complex unity of all these different physiological, psychological character traits. So you need to discover yourself. You need to learn yourself. Apply the principles, but don't forget yourself. Now, the lesson number 2 that I have learned, and it took me some time and it was a very difficult lesson to learn, is that building more muscle doesn't always build better physique. This is what actually my competitions taught me. When you are starting your bodybuilding career, you have obviously, most of you, the same goals. You want to get bigger. You want bigger chest. You want bigger arms. You want bigger legs. You want more muscles everywhere. But bodybuilding is not simply a competition to see who can carry the largest amount of muscle. Bodybuilding is all about proportions, is about balance, symmetry, shape, conditioning, and how do you fit all this together. I've competed 46 times, and I learned that lesson quickly. I stood most of the time to people who were bigger than me, heavier than me, but I beat them. How did I beat them? I didn't beat them with size. I beat them with proportions. I beat them with symmetry. I beat them with conditioning. I beat them with a whole package of everything that bodybuilding requires when you are on the stage. And sometimes somebody who is smaller than you can beat you. I lost a few competitions from people that I didn't even acknowledge in the hall when we arrived there, and then we mingled and talked. And I even thought that these people who I was talking to, that happened to a few international shows. I remember one show in a European show in Epinal in France. There were a couple of guys, one French and one Italian. I talked to them. They looked ready. You can see them by looking at their hands and skin and the face. You can see that they're really, really prepared. But I honestly believe they're not heavyweight. I believe they are light heavy, because they were clearly much smaller than me. But when the time came to warm up, they appeared in the weight class, heavyweight class. So heavyweight class changing room. And I looked at them and I'm thinking, these guys, they're in the wrong changing room. But they were not. They were heavyweight. Although I was 102 kgs, both of these guys were around 94, 95. So in those days, there was not super heavyweight. Heavyweight was anywhere from 90 to whatever, 120 if you want. So I was 102. One was 94, one was 95. But there were a lot of people. It was a European competition, and there were a lot of people who were much bigger than me, 110, 115 giants. So you look at them and you think, oh my God, what I'm going to do with these guys? I mean, there is no way I can do something. But out of probably 20 plus people on the stage, I ended up third. Italian guy ended up second. He absolutely looked amazing, absolute perfection, small waist, broad shoulders, everything on him, legs, quads, calves, brilliant conditioning. And the guy who won was otherworldly. That I will never forget that physique. But this is the example to explain to you, to show you that being the biggest guy on the stage doesn't mean that you're going to win the show, doesn't mean that you're the best. So the point is, bodybuilding is not only about building as much muscle as possible, but also developing a proportionate, symmetrical body. And if you're a competitive bodybuilder, obviously you have to be in competitive shape. But for majority of people who are not competing, I repeat, you should always pay attention to proportions and symmetry. So don't just start pushing and building muscle, because what happens, sometimes you're going to build more muscles where you are genetically more gifted, and you may end up having enormous upper body but then not having legs, or other way around. You may have great arms and shoulders but not chest and not back. So you have to really be very careful about not overdeveloping your strong parts, but paying attention to the parts which are maybe lagging in development and try to bring them up together. I mean, when I started bodybuilding, I didn't even know I'm going to compete ever, because my legs were not good enough, my chest were not good enough. But then as I moved forward, I realized that actually I have to pay more attention to my lagging muscle groups, and I did it. And it took time, and it took a lot of effort, and it took a lot of experiments and learning, generating knowledge, and eventually I managed to build a body which was flawless. I never had a small muscle group. All of them were built in a package that actually granted me 17 victories. And as you can see from these images, I always paid attention to balance my physique. My back always responded more than any other muscle. My back was my probably best body part, but then I managed to bring up my legs, my calves, also my chest. Chest also become one of the best body parts, even my shoulders. They were very, very stubborn, but I managed to develop them, to build them, and this is what bodybuilding is all about. So it's not how big is your body, but how proportionate, how symmetrical, and obviously in how what kind of shape you are. So bodybuilding is very complex, and this is one of the lessons that I learned. And obviously I was wrong in the beginning, thinking that the bigger I get, the better I will be. But now I know that obviously I can't change much, but if I go back, this is something that I would pay attention from day one, because it took me a few years to realize that actually I'm wrong. I'm getting my back bigger, my arms bigger, but my legs were not bigger, chest. So I had to slow down a little bit on back and arms, and I had to focus more on my chest, on my legs. And this is exactly what I advise my clients to do now. We're always trying to get that perfect proportion, perfect symmetry and balance, and this is very important lesson. Now the lesson number 3 is that strength and muscles are not the same thing. So it took me a lot of time to fully appreciate it, because in the beginning I was all about getting stronger. I was getting bigger as well, but I was just bulky. I wasn't really looking like a bodybuilder. I was big, but I was very strong. But I believe that stronger I get, better it will be. I will tell you something very interesting, a really fanatical approach from my side, which was wrong, but well, here we go. I remember that I was doing chest every Saturday. So I said to myself, every next Saturday you are going to increase the weight and go for that personal best from 1 max rep. So this was my target. So I remember I started, when I came from the army, I started with bench pressing 60 kgs for 2-3 reps. But then every Saturday I moved with 62.5. You couldn't wait for the next Saturday. 65. Following Saturday, 67.5. So 2.5 kgs extra every Saturday. So I was progressing. And I came up to somewhere around 100 kgs, and then that stopped because strength is very different. I didn't pay attention to my chest development. I just wanted to get stronger because I believe that if I get stronger, I'm going to get bigger, better. I remember days when I would try to lift that imagined weight, new weight that I had to lift midday around 12, and I couldn't. Now, for the rest of the day, I was absolutely mental. I was hysterical. Why couldn't I do this? Why couldn't I do this? So I would do other things, studying this and that. And I remember once I went to the cinema. So I couldn't even watch the movie. I was just thinking, I have to lift this new weight today. And I left. My friends stayed there. I left before the movie finished because I didn't even watch it. I didn't care about the movie. I was thinking about my bench press max, 1 rep max. So it was about 10, 10:30 nighttime. I went back home, went to my gym. I put the weights, and nobody was there. And in the basically middle of the night, I managed to lift that weight. I don't know what would happen if I didn't. Maybe I wouldn't be here now. But I managed to lift that weight. That was maybe 102.5 kgs bench press, 1 rep. And after that, everything was perfect. So I was flying. I was all over the moon. But this was wrong. This was wrong. Because that 1 rep max doesn't mean anything. It's just the skill. It's just the ability to perform particular movement, to move the weight from point A to point B. What that has to do with muscle growth? Nothing. Well, I know that now, but I didn't know that then. So instead of doing 8 to 12 reps and try to do as many sets as possible in a perfect form, I was chasing weights. I did do the same thing with bent over rows. I did the same thing with squats. And because of that, obviously I was getting often injured, but nothing would stop me. Nothing would simply stop me. Building muscle is something completely different. You need to understand that physiology of building muscle, hypertrophy, has nothing to do with strength. And that terminology, that strength, is again very equivocal, is not clear. What is strength? What is strength? When we talk about this is very strong, what do you mean strong guy? What that strong guy can do? Usually strength is looked upon as ability to perform with heavy weights in 3 movements. Which of those movements? Squats, bench press, and deadlift. This is exactly what power lifters do. So you can be strong doing deadlift, but not necessarily strong doing squats. So you see how unreliable this concept of strength is. So what is strength? And then we put 3 different exercises, 3 best personal bests, and then we divide them with 3, and we get your average. I mean, what a nonsense! What a logical exercise game of digits, of numbers. Absolute nonsense. Yes, if you're a powerlifter, fine, do it. But what that has to do with bodybuilding? Nothing. Because that strength is simply ability to perform particular movements, either bench press, bent over row, squats, deadlift, shoulder press, whatever, in 1 rep max. And that should not be the case if you're trying to build muscle, because your muscles don't grow from 1 rep max. They need sets, they need time under tension, which is anywhere from 20 to 90 seconds, depending on which muscle we're talking about. And obviously perfect form, slow negatives, a lot of stress in the stretch position, etc., etc. Enough mechanical tension. And that is not going to come from 1 rep max. So you should never confuse strength with muscle growth. Also, strength is directly related to your neurological system. Is ability to perform, is a skill as well. So when you become stronger, that doesn't mean you're getting bigger. You're just becoming more efficient in that particular movement, in that particular performance. Your nervous system is more up to that one explosive movement rather than something else. And this is fine if you're a powerlifter. I have nothing against powerlifting. Whoever is a powerlifter, fine. I wish you all the best, but I'm not interested in that. I'm only interested in muscle growth and fat loss. This is what my channel is all about. And it doesn't mean that you should not increase the weight over time. Of course, you have to increase the weight over time, but that is another subject that I devoted few videos on that subject. This is progressive overload principle. You should increase the weight only when you are ready to increase the weight, only when you are able to perform in perfect form more than suggested number of reps. So if I say 8 to 12 reps, if 12 reps are the reps that you should perform in first set, shy of failure, maybe 1 or 2 reps, and then as you go in the consecutive sets, the reps will start going down as you keep the weight the same, you don't change the weight. So when the day comes that you, instead of 12, perform 13, 14, 15 reps, still 1 rep shy of failure, clearly the weight has become light. And this is the message that your body is sending to you, saying, I am now strong enough, so increase the weight in this particular exercise. Yes, that's fine, but weights should serve you. You should not be the servant of the weight. Now, the lesson number 4 that I couldn't learn when I was young, but I learned it as I went along, is that the best training program changes as you change. So every training program, for example, that I advise people, my clients and 90 days challenge participants or people who ask me for training programs, is training program at that particular time. It may last for some time. It may last for a few months, 2-3 months, maybe 6 months. But that program will start changing as you change, because the suggested number of sets will increase. The reps will stay, but then the weight will increase as you go along. Now, the selection of exercises most of the time stays the same. What changes? Number of sets, they change. Performance, technique, mind-muscle connection changes, and also rest time between the sets. So once you have a program that works for you, that doesn't mean that this is the program for life. A lot of things will change as you change. Another thing very important to understand is that training program that you have followed when you were 20 was good. You were responding to this, even if the exercises were not the best, even if the form was not the best, even if you were chasing weights most of the time, even if you did a lot of sets to failure, you, simply because you're young, you are adapting quickly, you are recovering faster, your injuries heal faster, your connective tissues are more elastic, you may get away with a lot of wrongdoings. Although you have improved, that doesn't mean that the same training program that you have done when you were 20 will work for you when you are 60. A lot of things will change. Now, with more experience, you will learn more about yourself. You will learn more about your body. You will be able to communicate with your body much better. Your mind-muscle connection will change. You will start feeling the weights more. You will become wiser. So that means that sometimes you will have to change the exercise. So instead of doing barbell bench press over time, you may switch to dumbbell bench press, because that will give you less stress on your shoulders, for example. Or you may do hammer press, which is another alternative. So you will also find out that doing more sets with a much better form, with maybe a bit lighter weights, will be much better for you as you age. So you need to understand these training programs are not written in stone, and once you get it, you follow for the rest of your life. I did it in the beginning. I was so reluctant to change anything. But if you have a training program and it works for some time and then it stops, you have to change it. Because I was so religious about heavy-duty training principles. I didn't want to talk about anything else. I was so single-minded. I didn't want to know. If you come to me and you say, you know what, there may be a better training system, training method, I didn't even want to talk. So this is when you have that religious approach to certain things. You are simply ignoring reality. You are not open for discussion. You are not critical mind anymore. You are not mind anymore, because you don't use your mind. You just follow the gospel. That's the problem. So eventually, as you change, the programs change. As I understood that later on, when I started competing, I started polishing my training programs, and I was experimenting, always trying to find a better program something that will suit me better on that particular level. And I can tell you that things changed as I went along. And I'm very happy that I understood that in time. But there are a lot of people who simply don't want to change anything because they believe if something worked when they were 20, is going to work when they are 60. So the lesson number 5 is very important because if you don't follow what I'm saying now, it may cost you a lot. And this is injury prevention. So when you're young again, you can get away with many wrongdoings. You can do squats with very heavy weights. You can bounce off the bottom position. You can do bent over rows by moving your body up and down, putting a lot of stress on your lower back, and similar. And you may get away with it simply because you're young, your connective tissues are more flexible, your joints can take it, but there is something called accumulated stress. And if you continue doing this, one day you are going to get injured. And you will ask yourself, why did I get injured? I did everything the same as I did months ago, but now I got injured. I got injured many times. I remember injuring my lower back by doing squats wrongly. I remember injuring my lower back by doing bent over rows in the wrong form, with too much weight. I also remember injuring my left shoulder by doing very heavy all-out sets to failure on incline press. I had injuries on my elbow, especially the left elbow, because I was going very heavy with the French press. Absolutely unnecessary. But I didn't know better. I always thought more weights, more muscles, more strength, better. Not at all. I got injured, I would heal the injury, and I would do the same things again. I cannot tell you how many times I have injured my left shoulder. It wasn't a bad injury, but it was injury that would simply eliminate that particular exercise for maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks. I never had a serious injury, but I had a lot of accumulated injuries, especially in the beginning. When I started learning my trade, when I became more wise, and when I started learning myself, injuries simply disappeared. And I didn't have any injury in last, 30 years, simply because I have implemented changes in my training. So if you do some exercise which is constantly putting too much stress on left elbow or right shoulder or left knee, you need to start analyzing that exercise. Maybe that's not a good exercise for you, because not every exercise should be good for everybody, simply because we are different. We have different proportions, different skeletal proportions, obviously, and different ability, different strength of connective tissues. So if something works for someone doing bench press and squats, that doesn't mean that necessarily that will work for you. Oh, but it works for most people. You are not most people. Most people are 70, 80%, 90, whatever. But there is still 10, 20, 30% of people who are not most people. So what about them? Clearly, not every exercise will give everybody the same benefits. So if you feel uncomfortable or start getting niggle on one shoulder or a knee or lower back, analyze that exercise. Maybe it's not good for you. Analyze the form. Maybe you're not doing it in the right form. And this is very important, because injuries, as you get older, they heal slower. They can simply get you out of training, maybe training your back or legs or chest, depending on what you get injured, for months. And what is going to happen then? Then you're going to lose your muscles there. Also, your connective tissues will start getting weaker. And one day when you come back, it's going to be a problem to get back to where you were, because this is simply unnecessary self-inflicted damage that happens, first of all, because of wrong selection of exercises, wrong training system, and most often training to failure, especially with heavy weights. Imagine two people training in a different way. So one guy goes and lifts very, very heavy weights, low number of reps, literally giving everything in order to lift those weights. thinking that, no pain, no gain, the biggest nonsense ever said in any sport. Just forget about this. Pain and gain have nothing to do with each other. This is all ego music for your ears. This is a fable. No pain, no gain, injury is coming. So one guy is doing that way. Another one is using moderate weights, putting a lot of mechanical tension of the targeted muscle, because he is targeting his biceps when he's training biceps. When he's training shoulders, he's targeting shoulders. When he's doing his chest are the main muscle working there. Completely opposite to the guy in the first case, who was just lifting the weight, using all possible muscle to do barbell curls, shoulder press, bench press. The second guy is targeting the muscles. He does more reps, trying to do it in perfect form. Risk of injury, almost none. The first guy, huge risk of injuries. So now, you tell me, who will build more muscles in 10 months? First guy or the second guy? Certainly, it's going to be the second guy. Why? Because he is training for hypertrophy. He is targeting the muscle that he wants to develop. And that muscle will respond. The first guy is fighting the weights. The weights, for the first guy, have become the goal. His body has become the tool, the means. In the second case, the weights are the means, but the body is the end, instead of being other way around. So you don't want your weights to become the end and your body, your muscles, to be means. You want other way around. You want your muscles to be the end and weights to be the means. And this is very different. Now, the lesson number 6 that I learned hard way, and I want to tell you not to go the same way and pay attention to this, is that you never actually discover your genetic potential. A lot of people talk about genetic potential all the time. Oh, genetics, this guy is amazing because he had amazing genetics. I'm not like that guy. I know I will never build a body like that. I will never have his chest and his quads and his calves, because simply he had genetics and I don't have that genetics. And where this road leads, where this train of thoughts is going to take you, if you think like this. Yes, genetics are very important. Nobody denies that. In order to be Mr. Olympia or a very successful professional bodybuilder, you have to have great genetics, period. But I'm not saying that you should be Mr. Olympia. I'm not saying that you should be Mr. World or anything like that. I'm talking about genetics that you have to discover, but you will never know your genetics in 6 weeks, in 3 months, in 5 months of training, because it's impossible. When I started training, my chest was my worst muscle group. Now, what happened? If I thought that my chest was genetically bad and my back is genetically very good, I would never improve. I would never build a body that will give me an opportunity to step on the stage, not to mention winning the shows. So I simply kept going and my chest improved. So I didn't even know how good my genetics are. I couldn't discover my genetics in a few weeks or in few months, simply because if you do things wrong, if you exercise wrong, you will never allow your genetics to express themselves. So you will never know what is your genetic potential. Now, regardless of your genetic potential being as advanced as Mr. Olympias, like for example, Sergio Oliva, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Serge Nubret, Phil Heath, Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman, and others who had absolutely superior genetics. We can say they were literally born to be Mr. Olympias. You should not be worrying about Mr. Olympias, or even you should not be worrying about anybody else, because we are talking here about your genetics. You should focus on your genetics. And what is going to happen, and it happens most of the time, it happened to me, instead of using this story of genetics to be your excuse to stop training or to stop pushing or to stop being consistent, to stop learning things, to stop improving, you should focus on all these factors that I've just mentioned. You should be consistent. You should constantly explore new avenues. You should learn more. You should try to be the best that you can be. And then what may happen? It may happen that actually the muscle that you thought was genetically inferior has developed and has become one of your best muscles. Like, for example, my chest and my quads. For years, they were lagging, but I didn't stop training them. I believe that right training and right nutrition and consistency, more than anything else, are going to make me grow those muscles. And that happened. So you see, I couldn't judge my genetic potential in the beginning. And this is what I'm trying to say to you, because I was also tempted in the beginning, because I didn't know. I didn't have knowledge that I have now. I was thinking, you know what, maybe my back is always there, is always big, is always growing, responding. My quads are not doing it. So maybe, and you see when that maybe comes into, when that seed of doubt enters your mind, it can be absolutely detrimental for your progress. Because doubt grows like a virus, like a disease, and can stop you at some point. I've seen people like that. People who just said, nah, you know what, my legs will never grow, so I'm not going to try to compete. Well, my legs didn't grow in the first 2 years, but then they started growing. And this is the story about knowing your genetics. So always focus on the cards that you have got, because you can only play with the cards you have been dealt. So look at your potential, whatever it is, and try to be the best that you can be. And then you will eventually discover your genetics, and they may be even more favorable than you have ever thought. Now we have come to the last lesson, and this is that eventually bodybuilding becomes much more than just muscle. This is probably the biggest lesson that bodybuilding has taught me. When I started, I wanted muscle. I wanted to get as big as possible. I wanted to become stronger. I wanted to build a massive physique. And then I started competing. And competing is obviously great, but then I started wanting to win and improving, and standing on the stage really mattered. But after all these competitive years and experience, then something happens. Over the decades, your trophies, they simply sit somewhere. The competitions, your victories, they become memories. Your body changes and life simply moves forward. And then you realize actually that bodybuilding has taught you something much bigger than bigger muscles. It taught you how to do difficult things repeatedly. Think about what bodybuilding actually requires. You perform a workout today and almost nothing changes. You eat properly today, no visible changes. You go to bed, you wake up in the morning, you repeat the same things. In a week, you look in the mirror, nothing has changed. But you keep going, and eventually your body becomes the evidence of thousands of decisions that nobody saw. That consistency, that effort, that ability to sustain and accept all these days and weeks and months when changes didn't happen, to go through that discipline, that self-control, responsibility. And you see, bodybuilding actually teaches you that wanting something is not enough. You have to behave consistently with the thing you say you want. And perhaps more importantly, bodybuilding teaches you to become more comfortable with delayed gratification. This is very difficult today. Everybody wants gratification in an instant. People start training, immediately they buy all kinds of supplements. Some people even start taking steroids. They will do everything. They look in the mirror every day. They want to change. And they don't like if they don't see changes within a week, 2, 3. Many people stop training. Most people start changing training system, exercises, supplements, diets, because it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I've done this for 6 weeks and it's not working. I have to change. Because that instant gratification has become hysterical. People are very unhappy if something didn't happen today or yesterday. But you see, physiology is very different. Bodybuilding is very different. There is no such a thing as instant gratification in bodybuilding. Gratifications in bodybuilding are delayed. You have to be patient. You have to be consistent. You have to learn never to take no for an answer. You have to understand that not all the time you will see progress. Not all the time you will be happy. Not all the time you will go to the gym motivated. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that you have to go to the gym. If you train 4 times per week, you have to do that. Oh, but it's raining today. Oh, I'm not going to go. It's cold. Oh, I don't like when it's cold. Oh, it's too hot. The gym doesn't have air conditioning. Really? Do you want me to tell you how I started and when I trained? I trained on -20 in the cellar. My first gym was in the cellar. No air conditioning, no heating. I put 3 or 4 hoodies on me. I take gloves, 2 pairs of gloves, and I go down to train in the winter in Yugoslavia. Temperatures went to -20. I never stopped training. In the summer, temperatures went up to 40 degrees. When did we train? At 10 at night. You know why? Because temperatures dropped then to 28, 30. So it's still very hot, but we train at 10 at night because I couldn't train at 5 in the morning. I was studying, so I couldn't. You see, consistency, resilience, commitment is what matters, and patience. Because if you do everything right, things will happen. Absolutely will happen. I've been training thousands of clients in the last 4 decades, and every single one of them who followed my principles, who was committed, disciplined, and consistent, has changed. Some of those clients have changed beyond recognitions. You can see them on my website, some of them, and you see the changes that I achieved. Some of those changes happen within 6-7 months. Some changes happen over 2-3 years, but they all change. And I can tell you that after so many years, I realized that this process, this beautiful experience of bodybuilding has actually changed more than just my physique. Bodybuilding has changed my character. And this is something that I never understood when I started. I only thought that bodybuilding is going to change my body. But looking back, I realized that actually my body was also building me. So let me tell you a few final thoughts. So after 40 years of training, what has bodybuilding taught me? First, it taught me that eventually you have to stop copying others and discover your own body. Second, it taught me that just getting bigger, building bigger muscles, is not the way to build a great physique, balance, proportions, and quality. Third, it taught me that strength is useful, but strength doesn't mean muscle growth necessarily. So it taught me that I have to start training for muscle growth, not just to get stronger. Fourth, it taught me that your training program has to change and evolve as your body evolves. Fifth, it taught me that avoiding injury is extremely important and is the most important strategy for long-term progress and also longevity. Sixth, it taught me that genetics matter, but worrying about your genetics achieve absolutely nothing. And most importantly, seventh, it taught me that bodybuilding eventually becomes about something much bigger than bodybuilding. Now, when I look back after more than 4 decades in bodybuilding, I can tell you that the greatest achievement is not one competition, is not one trophy, is not one photograph, is that I'm still here. I'm still training, I'm still learning, and still trying to improve. And if you're younger and you're watching this, this is the greatest piece of advice that I can give you. Don't think about the physique you want next summer. Think about the person you want to be next 20 years. Train in a way that will allow that person to exist. Take care of your body. Learn from it. challenge it, but respect it. And don't waste time consistently looking sideways at what everybody else is doing. Because ultimately you have only one body to build, so make the most out of it and enjoy the process of discovering just how far you can take it. After more than 4 decades in bodybuilding, competing 46 times, winning 17 titles, and coaching over 3,500 clients, I have published 14 ebooks for you, which are fully loaded with detailed information about everything you always wanted to know about bodybuilding. So if you want to deepen your knowledge and widen your horizons, click on the link in the comments and you can access my ebooks. Also, I have published for you the bodybuilding blueprint course, in which I personally perform and explain the best exercises for all major muscle groups. So if you want to learn how to exercise in perfect form and stop wasting time in the gym, click on the same link in the comments and you can access my bodybuilding blueprint course. So guys, I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, share the video, and also send me your comments. And I will see you in the next video.